And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
Witnesses are staying anonymous. They're terrified of threats and bullying. It's a very neutral and interesting piece.
You know, what Ryan Reynolds, has seemingly done, right, is used his power and influence to not only help Blake Lively take over this movie, but, he's used it, on Deadpool and to make fun of Joe.
Hold on to your designer handbags, Hollywood vultures, because the celebrity takedown of the year is officially underway. Blake Lively, once the untouchable queen of effortless chic, the reigning monarch of witty Instagram captions, is now facing a public immolation so brutal, so complete, it's being spearheaded by none other than the digital colossus himself, Joe Rogan. Forget whispers and rumors, forget passive-aggressive celebrity feuds. This is a full-blown 5-alarm firestorm ignited by Rogan's Flamethrower podcast, and Blake Lively is squarely in the crosshairs. Why the sudden volcanic eruption of Rogan rage? Because a seismic shockwave just ripped through Tinseltown, Blake Lively has reportedly suffered a devastating legal defeat in the lawsuit stemming from her alleged and now apparently legally validated campaign to sabotage director Justin Baldoni. We're not talking a minor setback or a negotiated settlement, we're talking a humiliating legal drubbing, a court-sanctioned validation of accusations of malicious intent, and now, the unforgiving, unfiltered, and utterly brutal dissection of every messy detail by Joe Rogan for his millions of devoted listeners. This isn't just a PR hiccup, babes. This is a career-threatening, image-obliterating meltdown of epic proportions. Get ready to witness a Hollywood takedown so savage, so complete, it'll be studied in crisis management seminars for years to come, because Joe Rogan is about to systematically, ruthlessly, and publicly destroy Blake Lively, and we drama detectives are front row center for every scorching, scandalous second.
She can't prepare for what she doesn't know they have, and again, they have a lot. Now the Hollywood Reporter has seemingly outed the two actresses' names. They're pretty much being bullied to respond.
The digital airwaves are crackling with outrage, the internet is a raging torrent of condemnation, and the epicenter of this media earthquake is, predictably, the Joe Rogan experience. In a podcast episode that dropped like a depth charge into the celebrity news cycle, Rogan has reportedly unleashed a verbal blitzkrieg against Blake Lively, a full frontal assault on her character, her motives, and her now legally challenged actions, and it is, by all accounts, utterly merciless. Imagine the scene, Rogan, headphones clamped firmly in place, leaning into the microphone, his voice resonating with that signature blend of alpha male authority and righteous indignation. Sources leaking from early listeners describe Rogan not just offering commentary, but delivering a blistering point-by-point dismantling of Blake's alleged behavior, dissecting the lawsuit details with the forensic precision of a seasoned prosecutor and the unrestrained fury of a public executioner. Rumor has it he's employing his full arsenal of rhetorical weapons, scathing sarcasm, withering mockery, and that trademark Rogan bluntness that leaves no room for ambiguity. He's reportedly painting Blake not as a wronged artist or a misunderstood actress, but as a calculating, manipulative Hollywood insider who abused her power, attempted to crush a rival's career, and ultimately got spectacularly, legally, and publicly burned for her hubris. We're talking Rogan allegedly deploying phrases that are already becoming viral soundbites. Utterly humiliated, karma with a capital K, Hollywood elite hypocrisy laid bare, and accountability finally arrives for the privileged. He's reportedly honing in on the sheer audacity, as he sees it, of Blake's alleged actions, contrasting her once pristine public image with the now exposed reality of her alleged behind-the-scenes machinations, and crucially, Rogan isn't just speaking to the usual celebrity gossip crowd, he's broadcasting to his massive, fiercely loyal, and incredibly diverse audience, millions who trust his judgment, value his unfiltered opinions, and are now being presented with a narrative of Blake Lively as the unambiguous villain in this Hollywood drama. This isn't just celebrity commentary, it's a digital guillotine, a public execution in the hyper-visible arena of the internet, meticulously orchestrated by one of the most influential voices in the global media landscape. Rogan's fury isn't just fueling the fire, it's acting as an accelerant, guaranteeing that this scandal will not just burn brightly, but incinerate everything in its path, leaving Blake Lively's image in ashes.
And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not.
But I was like just tracking him down, and then I finally got to read the script, and the script was a thriller. So So that was a little confusing to me because he's like such a funny director.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know, what is this? Because the script is definitely like a twisting, turning, intense thriller. Is it a comedy or a thriller? And he said, yes. So then every day on set, I was like, is today a comedy or is it a thriller?
It's a good mix
and
of
it's
both.
like, yeah, it's like really kind of over the top and campy and trashy and fun and like, you know, kind of like my outfit, I guess.
As TMZ is now reporting, of course witnesses are staying anonymous. They're terrified of threats and bullying. Now this smells like Blake's PR team trying to spin why they're not coming forward.
Let's delve into the legal earthquake that ripped through Blake Lively's carefully constructed world, the ground zero event that triggered Joe Rogan's volcanic eruption and sent her reputation into a tailspin, the lawsuit, and more specifically, the reported devastating lawsuit loss. According to rapidly escalating and increasingly credible reports, Justin Baldoni, or more accurately, the formidable studio machinery backing It Ends With Us, didn't just absorb Blake Lively's alleged PR assault and move on. They reportedly retaliated with the full force of Hollywood legal firepower, unleashing a defamation lawsuit against Blake that was as swift as it was brutal. The precise legal filings are still being dissected, but the core of the lawsuit, insiders suggest, centered on Blake's alleged calculated and systematic orchestration of a negative press campaign against Baldoni. The accusations likely detailed a pattern of behavior, leaked texts presented as evidence of malicious intent, anonymous tips to gossip outlets designed to undermine Baldoni's credibility, and potentially even coordinated efforts to portray him as unprofessional, controlling, and creatively inept, all in service of Blake seizing greater control of the It Ends With Us narrative. The legal argument likely wasn't just about hurt feelings or creative disagreements, it was about demonstrable damage to Baldoni's reputation, career prospects, and the financial viability of the film itself. And the truly catastrophic news for Blake, the hammer blow that reverberated through Hollywood and ignited Rogan's fury? She reportedly lost, and not just by a hair. Whispers suggest it wasn't a negotiated settlement or a carefully worded compromise. It was a decisive legal defeat, a resounding victory for Baldoni and his team. Was it a summary judgment, a courtroom ruling that unequivocally sided with the plaintiffs? Was it a settlement forced upon Blake by her own legal team, advising her to concede defeat to avoid an even more damaging and public trial? The specifics remain shrouded in legal confidentiality, but the outcome is brutally clear. Blake Lively has suffered a monumental legal humiliation, a court-sanctioned validation of the accusations leveled against her, and a public declaration that her alleged actions were not just ethically questionable, but legally actionable and ultimately indefensible. This isn't just a PR setback that can be spun or managed, it's a formal legal judgment, a black mark on her record, and the very foundation upon which Joe Rogan is now building his towering edifice of public condemnation. The lawsuit loss isn't merely a legal defeat, it's a Hollywood Armageddon, a reputational apocalypse that has left Blake Lively's carefully constructed image in ruins.
So
To
I
fully
found that
grasp the
incredibly
gravity
telling.
of Blake Lively's
Hidden in a
legal
little
predicament
footnote,
and the
her
intensity of
protection
Rogan's
that-
subsequent
well, you know,
outrage,
they
we
were-
must
I was told
dissect
they
the
were
core
lawfully
accusation.
obtained.
Blake
Yikes.
Lively's alleged mocking of
Big
Justin
yikes.
Baldoni. The
Even if
title's
Justin
blunt term,
was, too
mocking,
huggy
isn't
or
just
whatever the heck,
casual
or
phrasing.
said
It
she was
suggests
sexy.
a
None
deliberate,
of this
calculated
words this.
campaign of denigration.
And you still
Actions
have to
perceived
atone
not
for
as
what
mere
you did.
disagreement, but as a concerted effort to publicly ridicule, demean, and undermine Baldoni. This alleged mocking likely extends far beyond the leaked text messages, painting a picture of a sustained and multifaceted campaign to belittle Baldoni and erode his authority on the It Ends With Us set and beyond. Imagine the alleged tactics, not just private texts to confidants, but whispers strategically planted in the ears of studio executives, veiled criticisms subtly leaked to industry trades, perhaps even on-set behavior designed to publicly undermine Baldoni's directorial decisions and portray him as incompetent in front of the cast and crew. The lawsuit likely meticulously documented instances where Blake allegedly used her considerable Hollywood influence, her star power, her industry connections, her carefully cultivated media persona to mock Baldoni, to weaponize her privilege and platform against him. Those leaked texts, now likely Exhibit A in the legal proceedings, aren't just casual venting. They could be interpreted, and likely were by the court, as evidence of a deliberate strategy to mock and dismantle Baldoni's professional standing. The legal argument likely hinged on demonstrating that Blake's actions weren't simply about advocating for her creative vision. They were a calculated, malicious, and ultimately damaging campaign of public denigration designed to humiliate and diminish Baldoni in the eyes of Hollywood and the wider public. It's one thing to have creative clashes. It's another to allegedly orchestrate a campaign of sustained public mocking designed to inflict reputational damage and professional harm. And according to the reported lawsuit loss, the legal system and now the influential voice of Joe Rogan are unequivocally siding with the latter interpretation, portraying Blake not as a passionate artist, but as a Hollywood power player who weaponized mockery and is now facing the devastating consequences of her actions. This alleged mocking, this calculated use of Hollywood influence as a weapon, is now the defining narrative, casting Blake not as a victim, but as the perpetrator of a campaign of public humiliation that has spectacularly backfired.
There's a lot of comments that she puts in here that you're just like, why would you want to take over someone's movie? The outfits in this end are so out of touch. No, we don't want to watch bullies like Blake. Guys, she goes in and there's a lot of Twitter complaints, some of which, 2 or 3 of them are horrid and shouldn't be there, but some of them are spot on.
While the white-hot spotlight of Rogan's condemnation and the devastating lawsuit fallout is laser-focused on Blake Lively, her husband, Ryan Reynolds, is far from immune to the fallout. Though the title explicitly targets Blake, Ryan's name, his carefully constructed brand, and his billion-dollar Deadpool empire are inextricably intertwined with this unfolding Hollywood catastrophe, and he is facing a significant, if less direct, backlash by toxic association. While not directly named in the lawsuit, at least in initial reports, Ryan is undeniably caught in the radioactive fallout zone, facing a potent cocktail of guilt by association, reputational damage, and a looming Deadpool dilemma. His unwavering public and seemingly unconditional support for Blake, his rumored role as one of her dragons in the alleged Baldoni takedown campaign, and the still simmering Deadpool 3 joke controversy are all converging to create a perfect storm of negative PR swirling around him. Public perception, once overwhelmingly positive, is undergoing a rapid and potentially irreversible shift. The beloved, self-deprecating, and universally adored Deadpool star is now being viewed through a more critical lens, with some questioning whether his carefully crafted persona was merely a facade masking a darker side, a powerful Hollywood husband willing to defend his wife's actions regardless of ethical or legal boundaries and potentially complicit in her alleged campaign against Baldoni. Joe Rogan's scathing commentary, while primarily directed at Blake, inevitably casts a long shadow over Ryan as well, implicitly questioning his judgment, his character, and his role in enabling or even encouraging Blake's alleged behavior. Industry whispers are intensifying, painting a picture of a Hollywood power couple whose ambition and ruthlessness have finally outstripped their judgment. Is Ryan's unwavering loyalty to Blake now perceived as blind complicity? Is his devotion to their power couple brand blinding him to the ethical and legal quagmire they've both stumbled into? And the Deadpool 3 joke controversy, once dismissed as edgy humor, is now being re-examined as a potential example of that very power dynamic, a calculated act of Hollywood retaliation fueled by Ryan's desire to protect his wife's interests regardless of collateral damage. Ryan's continued silence, his conspicuous absence from the public discourse as this scandal explodes, is also backfiring spectacularly. His characteristic witty online defenses are nowhere to be seen, replaced by a deafening and increasingly damning quiet that many interpret as tacit admission of guilt, or at the very least a strategic retreat in the face of overwhelming negative evidence. While Blake is taking the brunt of the direct hits, Ryan is undeniably feeling the devastating shockwaves, his once untarnished image now indelibly stained by association, his carefully cultivated brand potentially irrevocably damaged by his wife's legal and public relations implosion. And the looming question for Marvel and for Ryan himself is whether the Deadpool franchise, his golden ticket, can survive this reputational contagion, or if even the merc with a mouth is vulnerable to the toxic fallout of Hollywood scandal.
And there is not a shred of evidence to support it. Really? 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 Even before Ends With Us, Baldoni wasn't afraid to interject elements of his religion on the set. He did talk about his religion a lot, says a source on 5 Feet Apart. This had shades of Scientology, but with less of the prominence and people hovering at the times. I think that's being mean. Nothing I've done makes it anywhere near the criminal accusations and things that Scientology does. So
Hollywood, that notoriously fickle and ruthlessly pragmatic ecosystem, is reportedly enacting a swift and decisive freeze-out of Blake Lively, a chillingly efficient demonstration of how quickly the industry can turn on its darlings when scandal strikes. The lawsuit loss, amplified to deafening levels by Joe Rogan's relentless public condemnation, is triggering a near-instantaneous shift in industry sentiment, transforming Blake from a coveted leading lady into a perceived pariah. Producers and studio executives, perpetually risk-averse and hypersensitive to public perception, are reportedly slamming the brakes on any projects even tangentially linked to Blake, reassessing her bankability, not just in financial terms, but in terms of reputational liability. The whispers are no longer hushed. They're echoing through studio backlots and power lunch hotspots. Is Blake Lively now officially toxic? Is she too radioactive, too much of a PR time bomb to risk associating with? Will casting her in a project now guarantee unwanted controversy, negative headlines, and a potential box office poison label? The meticulously crafted Hollywood darling image, the persona of effortless charm and red carpet perfection that Blake spent years cultivating, is not just cracking, it's shattering into irreparable fragments under the immense pressure of this scandal. Her carefully curated public persona is being ruthlessly replaced by a far less flattering narrative, that of a manipulative power player, a behind-the-scenes schemer, an actress willing to weaponize her influence and engage in messy and ultimately legally disastrous legal battles. Public opinion, swayed by Rogan's massive reach and the undeniable validation of the lawsuit loss, is mirroring Hollywood's cold shoulder with an equally brutal public scorn. Social media platforms are awash in vitriol, memes mocking her legal humiliation are going viral, and the hashtag #CancelBlakeLively is gaining alarming traction. The once adoring fan base, the legions of followers who hung on her every Instagram post, are now fractured and disillusioned, with many expressing open disappointment, visceral disgust, and even outright anger at her alleged actions. The perfect couple fantasy she and Ryan meticulously projected is now irrevocably shattered, replaced by a stark and unflattering reality, a perception of a ruthless power duo, willing to leverage their influence to crush perceived rivals and manipulate the media narrative to their advantage. This isn't just a temporary PR storm that can be weathered with a carefully crafted apology. It's a potential image implosion of catastrophic proportions, a fundamental and perhaps irreversible shift in how Hollywood and the global public perceive Blake Lively. And in a town where perception is often indistinguishable from reality, this reputational meltdown could translate into a Hollywood blacklist, effectively ending her reign as an A-list leading lady and relegating her to the margins of the industry she once dominated. Hollywood's cold shoulder isn't just a temporary chill, it's a deep freeze, threatening to lock Blake Lively out of the industry elite and relegate her to a career Siberia.
while Team Blake Lively may think they have the upper hand, sources say she has no idea what's coming regarding her battle with Justin Baldoni.
The career-defining, multi-million-dollar question now reverberating through Hollywood's power circles is stark and unforgiving. What are the long-term consequences for Blake Lively? Is her career salvageable after this devastating legal loss, the Joe Rogan-fueled public relations inferno, and the near-universal condemnation from both the industry and the public? Is Hollywood resurrection even remotely possible, or is Blake Lively destined for a slow, agonizing fade into Hollywood purgatory? The immediate fallout is already chillingly tangible. Rumors are solidifying into reports. Projects Blake was actively pursuing are now being quietly shelved, studios are discreetly distancing themselves, and casting directors are reportedly instructed to pass on any scripts with her name attached. Brand endorsements, once the lifeblood of her lucrative side hustle, are vanishing faster than champagne at a wrap party, with major companies scrambling to sever ties to avoid the reputational contagion. The long-term prognosis is even grimmer, shrouded in a thick fog of uncertainty. Will Blake, with the best crisis management team money can buy, be able to orchestrate a Lazarus-like career resurrection? Can she somehow, against all odds, convince Hollywood and a deeply skeptical public that this lawsuit loss was an anomaly, a catastrophic misjudgment, and not a true reflection of her character, her professionalism, or her future conduct? Or is this the irreversible beginning of a career death spiral? A slow, agonizing descent from A-list wattage to Hollywood has been a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones at industry gatherings for years to come? Some industry strategists speculate that Blake's only viable path forward, however improbable, is a meticulously crafted and aggressively executed rehabilitation campaign. This would likely involve a carefully worded, seemingly heartfelt public apology, a series of strategically chosen, contrite interviews designed to humanize her and minimize her alleged actions, and perhaps even a deliberate period of low-profile, independent film work to demonstrate humility and a commitment to serious acting rather than celebrity power plays. But in the relentlessly unforgiving and hyper-competitive landscape of Hollywood image rehabilitation on this scale is a Herculean task, a near impossible climb back from the reputational abyss. And with Joe Rogan continuing to wield his immense influence to amplify the negativity and the lawsuit loss serving as a permanent, legally validated scarlet letter on her career, Blake Lively faces an unprecedented uphill battle to reclaim her former status, rebuild her shattered image, and escape the looming shadow of Hollywood purgatory. The future for Blake Lively is no longer bright with promise. It's shrouded in a dense, suffocating fog of uncertainty, her career teetering precariously on the precipice of irreversible damage, her once brilliant star dimmed, perhaps permanently, by the devastating confluence of legal defeat, public condemnation, and the unforgiving verdict of Hollywood itself. Let's deliver the final, brutal verdict on this Hollywood execution. Joe Rogan, wielding his digital megaphone like a judge's gavel, is not just criticizing, but publicly and systematically destroying Blake Lively's carefully constructed career. The damning catalyst. Blake's reported and legally validated loss in the defamation lawsuit stemming from her alleged campaign to mock and sabotage Justin Baldoni. Hollywood, in its characteristic ruthlessness, is reportedly giving Blake the ice-cold shoulder, projects are vanishing, and public opinion, fueled by Rogan's millions, is turning into a raging torrent of scorn. Ryan Reynolds, while not the direct target of the legal or Rogan's wrath, is facing significant and potentially franchise-threatening backlash by toxic association. The once golden couple of Hollywood, the envy of red carpets and gossip columns, is now facing a potential career-annihilating crisis. Their carefully constructed empire teetering on the brink of collapse, threatened by legal defeat, public humiliation, and the unforgiving, career-ending judgment of Joe Rogan. Is this the definitive end of Blake Lively's reign as an A-list Hollywood queen? Can she possibly orchestrate a career resurrection from this reputational wasteland, or is this devastating lawsuit loss, and Rogan's relentless wrath the beginning of a long, slow, and utterly public Hollywood downfall? Let me know your brutally honest opinions in the comments. Is Joe Rogan justified in his scorched earth takedown? Is Blake Lively's career officially over, or is there any flicker of hope for a Hollywood comeback? Sound off, don't hold back, hit that subscribe button for all the unvarnished truth about Hollywood's most spectacular meltdowns, because you know I'll be here, microphone poised, ready to dissect every scandalous twist and turn of this explosive saga. And trust me, drama addicts, this Hollywood destruction derby is far from over. Until next time, stay messy, keep sipping that scalding tea, and keep those notifications on, because the next act in this Blake Lively Hollywood horror show is likely just moments away, and it promises to be even more brutal than the last.